Hey, what's up? Beautiful fall day. Just walking my dog. That's Boo Boo. Wearing Alien Man from Mugler, new release. That I think really works well for fall. Perfect fall day. Great day to try out this fragrance. Stick around for my thoughts on Mugler's Alien Man. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Smells Like. I'm Josh. So good to see you. Welcome to my full review on the 2018 release from Mugler. This is Alien Man, a much anticipated release following the success of Alien for Women way back in 2005. 13 years later, we have a male counterpart coming in this very futuristic, kind of science fiction inspired design, kind of a monolithic looking bottle. Kind of reminds people a little bit of that monolithic alien structure at the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, the classic Kubrick film. I actually like the design of the bottle in terms of the way it looks. It's glass in the bottom. This top part is plastic, and it does kind of squeak a little bit when you handle it. That is a little bit cheap to me. The sprayer is nice. It's a nice mist there, and you can control your sprays. This really is an interesting release. For a designer release, it is super unique in my opinion. It's gotten polar opposites in terms of how it's been reviewed, how it's been received. Maybe with a little more on the negative side. I think there's been a lot of negative reviews for this. A lot of people just nonplussed, very unsatisfied with this one, saying it's very generic, just kind of another generic, boring men's run-of-the-mill mainstream fragrance. I personally think that this is almost like if you had a alternate reality or something and they tried to create their version of like a mainstream men's designer fragrance, that would be what you'd come up with, because it does have a little bit of that mainstream men's cologne, department store mall cologne feel that you get from a lot of men's designers. But it's got a lot of weirdness. It is avant-garde enough, it's strange enough, it's off-kilter enough that it really keeps it interesting for me, and really is why I really liked this from the time that I first tried it, and even ordered a bottle the same day that I got the sample, because it just really made an impression on me. Something unique and something interesting for the designer world, something that Mugler, of course, is known for. Let's talk a little bit about the concept here. I'm just going to read a little bit from Mugler. They write that this is a composition which is woody, leathery, and aromatic. I definitely can agree with that. Sort of the concept then are these different vibrations, electric vibrations from beechwood and dill, sensual vibration from leather and cashmere wood, a magnetic vibration from this white amber accord. And I get all of those ingredients and accords. This really does open with a very electric sort of vibration, and it almost buzzes. It almost does vibrate to me. It kind of reminds me of, and some others have said, of like hot wires or hot, warm electrical equipment. What this opens up, when I first smelled it, the main thing it reminded me of is, it took me all the way back to the original Nintendo and those gray Nintendo cartridges that would get warm from being in the machine, and you'd have to pull them out and blow into them to get the dust out for them to play correctly. That sort of warm, electronic equipment smell. This really reminds me of the smell of those Nintendo games, and that kind of hot wires from, wires behind the TV connecting the Nintendo or the VCR. Kind of reminded me of that sort of like 90s electronic equipment vibe, and the smells that would come from some of that stuff. It opens with this very herbal, very fresh vibe, I think from that dill, There's also that anise, which gives it kind of a fresh, herbal nuance and almost sharp. It's almost like a very sharp opening that really calms down and it becomes softer. There's kind of a fruity, strange, almost bubblegummy, fruity vibe, almost like a apricot or even grapey, like a grapey kind of vibe that probably is coming from the osmanthus in this, which is a floral that has a very fruity smell. And all throughout this thing, it's strange. The opening is strange as it dries down, that sort of fruity, bubblegummy thing. It never really quite goes fruity or bubblegummy. It just has those nuances. Those are quite strange nuances. And those remind me a little bit of Aura, another sort of recent, fairly recent release from Mugler. A little bit of that strange green, fruity, bubblegummy thing that Aura has. I think this has a little bit of that. And this almost feels like a male counterpart to Aura more so than it does to the original Alien. Let's talk real quick about all of the notes that are listed by Fragrantica that might kind of help you to get in context a little bit of what I'm talking about. So the top notes that Fragrantica lists are that beechwood, dill, anise, lavender, lemon, mint, and thyme. The heart notes are leather, cashmere wood, osmanthus that I mentioned, geranium, and pepper. And then the base notes are amber or white amber, as Mugler said. Cashmerean is listed again, even though cashmere was earlier listed. And then vanilla. So I don't get all of those notes from this. Like I said, it opens with that sort of strange electrical buzz to it. Turns into this very fresh, very green, very herbal, almost like a green lavender. The way that lavender can be almost sharp, very fresh, very herbal. Kind of has like a greenish tinge, like sort of a little bit of the feel that lavender can give, but with that greenness probably coming from that dill. And then, like I said, kind of a fruity, bubblegummy, sweet aspect that you get, kind of a grapey feeling that maybe you're getting from that osmanthus. If this had a color for me, it really would be like a grayish purple. And so I think it's so interesting that they have this sort of grayed purple gradient to the bottle, because that's exactly what this reminds me of it in terms of color. There's also a lot of warmth in this fragrance. You get this sort of smoky beechwood. I think you get some warmth from that cashmerean, which is cashmerean is a really sort of mysterious synthetic aroma chemical. It can smell like sort of blonde woods. It also can have a softness to it, and it can take on the form of other things. I think it's probably part of the amber accord that they use here, is sort of white amber that's going on here. It's a perfect note to use in sort of a strange fragrance because it's a hard note to nail down, and it's really a shapeshifter. And this fragrance is kind of a shapeshifter. As soon as it starts going away, man, it really turns another direction. There's a leathery nuance throughout that is really nice, just kind of like a classic men's leathery kind of feel. And the anise and that leather give this a little bit of a retro feeling to it. So it has these futuristic elements, but it also has these retro elements. There's these warm elements that you get from the woods. This really dries down into a very smooth, very warm, woodsy, leathery type of fragrance. It really wears well in this cooler weather, the fall weather. I think this is really a good fall and winter style of fragrance. The longevity is great. I get 10 to 12 hours with it, although it really plays hide and seek on the skin. Again, it's a shapeshifter, and it even is like that in terms of the performance. The sillage is nice. It's kind of an average sillage. So you get an average sort of projection, which is enough for me. But again, there are times that I really smell it, and other times I think it's disappeared. And then hours later, it'll come back and really be around again. And so for me, they really nailed the entire alien motif with this. It smells off. It smells strange. It's almost like something that would be familiar to us, but not white of this place, you know. The perfumer is Jean-Christophe Herald. He's been the perfumer on a lot of, if not all of their higher end exclusive line called their Les Exceptions line, and I've had a chance to try some of those. Two of those that kind of remind me a little bit of this. One in particular, Queer and Pertinent, is a leather fragrance that is meant to be like a classic men's leather fragrance, only done in like a science fiction futuristic way. And the leather in this really reminds me of that. And like I said, it just reminds me of that entire Mugler trend that they're doing right now, which is to take things that are familiar, and particularly this perfumer, Jean-Christophe Herald, his whole deal that he's been doing for Mugler is taking things that are familiar and dressing them up in futuristic, strange, sort of otherworldly ways. And I think he really nailed that with Alien Man. Really just keeps me coming back, wanting to smell it more and more. I fell in love with this from the first time that I tried it. I can see how some people may not like this and it may not understand the weirdness and think that the mainstream aspects of this aren't quite enough to separate it from other mainstream designer releases. I do understand that, but for me, this has enough of that avant-garde, enough of a uniqueness for a men's designer, a mainstream release, that I really enjoy it. I think this is going to end up with a bit of a cult following, and I think it's a cool direction. Really, it's just a cool fragrance, fun fragrance, and like I said, unique, avant-garde take on a mainstream men's designer release. Hey, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. If you've had a chance to try this, I would love to hear anyone that's tried this down in the comments to let me know how you would describe what this smells like, because more than anything, I think you've seen on this video, I kind of fumbled my way through trying to explain what this smells like, because it is really hard to explain. It really is a tough fragrance to nail down. So anybody that wants to try to explain what this smells like to you, please do in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if you'd like to do this again sometime, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you right here at the Smells Like Fragrance channel for another video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye. What do you think, Boo? You like Mugler? Wanna try Alien Man?